Yeah, all you got to do to learn a mode is like. So 1-4-5 is a very common chord progression in a lot of popular songs, and that's just. And what's kind of neat about that, if you remember the Roman numerals being capital for 1, 4, and 5, and everything else is minor or lowercase, that means that the chord triads for 1, 4, and 5 are all major scale notes. So it's just major third interval, right? And a fifth. That's a arpeggio, that's a triad, chord triad, you know. So if you were playing now instead the second, it's minor, so you'd have a flat third. And if you notice, that's because that note is still in A major. So everyone does all this weird theory stuff. Oh, well, you're going up from A, you know, to B, and it's this minor scale and blah 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 triads, and you're still just playing A major. So instead of that for the fifth, or it's easier to play this way. So if you do that with a scale, what I like to do as an exercise is take a scale like A, right? A major. And remember just that 1, 4, and 5 are major. So I'll play the arpeggio kind of triads, right? And which is just 1, 3, 5. And the interval for 3 is always here for major. For minor, it's up here. Right? So we start on A. Start on A, and the arpeggio or the major triad would be A, right? And then you'd have C sharp, and then E. Now I'll go to the second. Now on the second, it's a lowercase numeral. That's going to be a minor triad. So stay in the key of A. That's all that means. Because it's a lowercase Roman numeral, so the third is flat. So instead of playing this interval, like a major third interval, it's a flat third. Does that make sense? And this note is the same as this up here. So it's just easier to play minor arpeggios or triads. Like when I say triad, I of course don't mean the chord. You could play the chord, but not the way I'm playing it. This is 2 notes on the same string. So I like to do this exercise where it's 1, 3, 5 through all of E, or I'm sorry, all of whatever note, right? In this case, A. I'll just do the 1, 3, 5, but just remember, unless you're on the first, fourth, or the fifth of that scale, in this case A, you're going to want to play a flat third. So watch me, right? So here's the major third. And then the second is B, and that's lowercase Roman numeral, so that means we're going to play a flat third for the arpeggio, which is here. Now we're going to the third of A, which is up here, which is C sharp. And the third is lowercase. So even though this is a major third interval, it's a lowercase Roman numeral in the key of A. I mean, in any key, third is lowercase Roman numeral for major keys. So that means it's a third, flat third again. So those are the 2 patterns, right? Is like, and then up here. So just think of it that way. Like, I don't know if you could see that well. Hopefully my fingers. I'll call it the frets, right? So starting on A on the E string, it's it's 5, 5, and then next string 4, 7, 5, 4, 7. That's the major pattern, uppercase Roman numeral for the root. And then moving into the second, now it's on the E string, it's 7, 10, and then on the next string, the A string, it's 9. right? Now we're going to the third of the A scale, right? Which is here, C sharp. And it's still lowercase, so that's a minor pattern again. And we're going to the fourth, back to a major pattern. Fifth, uppercase, also a major pattern. Major third interval. And now we're going to go to the sixth, which is, oops, sorry, up here. And that's back to a minor because it's a lowercase interval. And then the seventh, and here's where it gets interesting, because it's minor, third, but it's also a flat fifth, which they call diminished. So instead of, it's a flat fifth, so that last note's a fifth. So instead of that, you flatten that down to D. And then you could hit the octave for fun, which is just drop that middle finger down to the D string. That's the exercise I like to do, and think about it that way with the Roman numerals, right? Major intervals, minor second, minor third, like arpeggios, major fourth, major fifth, minor sixth, diminished seventh, back to the major octave or root. I like to do that exercise, just do it as much as you can, and I think it'll help you understand chords and triads and why they're built that way. And it's literally because it's still the notes from the major scale. It's still all just using major scale notes. Those are the only notes we used, right? Different octaves and whatever. But that's all the triads are, is when you go to the second, when you go to the second, it's lowercase, and that just means it's minor. And the reason it has a flattened third in that triad relative to the B, right, not to the A, is because these are the only notes that are in A major. Right? That's another way to play it. So that's how everything relates. That's why I say everything is the major scale, because these Roman numerals that are lowercase are just, for a major scale, are just showing you that it's minor, right? And that means a flat third. And chord triads, a normal chord triad is just the first, the third, and the fifth. So whereas most power chords you learn on guitar for like heavy metal or rock songs or whatever, or even on bass, is root, fifth, and octave. That's a power chord. Whereas a chord triad is the first, the third, and the fifth. So you'd normally play it like this. And that's kind of a stretch too. So you could just start playing your chords that way. Right? So it's the same notes as this, but you could play them all together because it's on 3 different strings. And really stick with A major so I don't totally confuse you. It's going strings E, A, D. It's the 5th fret, 4th fret, and 2nd fret. So it may sound horrible, but that's A major triad. Sounds better at higher frequencies. And then if you were to go to the second, of A major, which is B, you'd think, oh, well, I'll just do that same chord triad. But if you notice, these notes are not in the A major scale, right? But what is a flatten? If you flatten that third, you know, instead of 1, 3, 5, flatten that third. Now you're back to those two notes are in the A major scale. How about this note? Is that in the A major scale? It is, because it's the same as that note. So that's why a Roman numeral, like for the second, is in third, and the sixth and seventh, which is actually seventh's diminished, it has, they're lowercase because they're minor. That means you're flattening the third interval. So when we talk about thirds, there's a third in the scale. So A major scale, it has a third note that's always going to be C sharp. But we can also refer to this interval, 5th fret to 4th fret on the next string, as a major third interval. And no matter what notes we're talking about, that's a major third interval. Right? Major third intervals. No matter where you play it. So there's the interval, and then there's the third of that scale or key you're in. So just know the difference. That's, I think, another place people get confused is when you're talking about the third, they're not always talking about the third of that scale, like that key of, in this case, A major. So where the third is C sharp. The third of A major is always going to be C sharp. But when you move up to like the second note of A major, which is B, you can still play a major third interval from there. It's not in the scale though, which is why you do a minor third interval. Because that's in the scale of A major. So I don't know if this is more confusing or less confusing. What unlocked it for me is just knowing that everything is just the major scale. Like all these minor keys and whatever, you're just playing the major scale starting on a different note, which is also known as a mode, but that's all a minor scale is. So let's say we play A minor, right? I know that A for A minor is the 6th note in a major scale enharmonic equivalent, and all that means is it's the same notes as A minor. So how do we figure that out, right? So A would be the 6th note. Let's raise it an octave. It's a little easier to find. But on a major scale, you'd have, right? That's why I like you to think of it as this spaced out major scale. Like in this case, 3, 5, 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7, and then 4, 5. If you think of a major scale kind of in that pattern, it might help you, because then you instantly know the 6th. If we're talking about what is A the 6th of, we'll raise it an octave, and then we know it's, 6, right? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's a C. So I could tell you C. I don't even have a book, and I never memorized this stuff. I just know now that C major is the enharmonic equivalent of A minor. Pretty cool. So once you learn that everything is the major scale and you only need to learn really the major scale and then where to play that on different parts all over the fretboard and then what people call them, you know, like somebody says A minor, they're not going to say, it might be the same notes as C major, but no one's going to say that. Like, you know, they want you to play down here. That has a lot different feel than like, so same notes, but one's got that major feel, C major, happy, right? And the other's that minor, darker feel because of the flattened third, flattened 6th, and flattened 7th. Anyway, this went way longer than I thought, but hopefully that helps you guys out. Stay tuned for more lessons. I'm going to do stuff for beginners. We're going to cover techniques, but let me know in the comments below what kind of stuff you want me to cover. The way some people teach it, they'll say, oh, hey, yeah, all you got to do to learn a mode is like, And you're just sitting there like, oh yeah, I can't really play that. Like, forget it. So I like to slow it down till things start clicking for you. And I think that's one of the biggest things that clicked for me in music theory is that, and I had tried studying it and reading books for, I'm talking years, like decades. And then, because no one ever explained to me that everything is just the major scale. Everything. Well, there's some weird exotic scales that aren't. But like, let's just look at the minor scale. That's just the same notes as a major scale, but if you started on the sixth note. And nobody told me that modes and scales and everything's the same. They make it sound like it's all different. You got to memorize all these different things. The only reason they say that is it can be helpful to learn a pattern of a mode, like Aeolian, which is the minor scale, natural minor scale. It can be helpful to learn that because then you memorize that pattern instead of some other pattern, right? I love the root and the tenth. But because that's a third, another exercise I like to do is, let's say you have the major scale again. I'll go to the second and you realize, oh wait, the second's got a flat third. Well, that means it's a flat tenth too. Sorry, that was the second, but still, that's flat. Third, flat. And then you got, I guess I can only do this on one string because I only have 4 strings, but so let's start down on G. Then you got the fourth, that's major, and then the fifth, major. And then you got the sixth, seventh. And so notice how I'm switching to the same fret on the E and G string. That's the minor with a flat and third, right? A flat and tenth. And then you have major for the uppercase Roman numerals. So that's another exercise you could do just for fun and learning and playing along. If you have a looper pedal, it's a great thing to help hear and play a major scale on top of that, is you could just do simple but fun. And those notes are all in G major. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the comments below if it doesn't. But that's your lesson for today. All right, take it easy. See ya.